Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Comic Book Users. Welcome to another episode of the show. And in the co-captain's chair, we haven't seen him in a little bit, but we'll be seeing him a little bit more often going forward. Mr. Scott Berry, what's going on, my friend?
Oh, not much, man. Kind of a dreary afternoon here in Austin, and it's kind of raining outside. Just a little blah. It's
Dreary
been a
here in New
crazy
York
week.
too. Yeah, it's been weather's been wonky here in New York, right? Today it's going to be, I think, upper 50s here in the Hudson Valley, but it's like cloudy and just kind of blah, looking like it wants to rain, but it's not yet. Yesterday was more of the same, and then we had like 2 or 3 days where it was like upper, I think it was like 70 and sunny, which is for, the second week of March, way too warm. I mean, I'm not complaining,
For you
but
guys, definitely.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
way too warm. Unseasonably warm. I always get worried when you see these weird fluctuations in temperatures. It's like, you just don't know what we're going to be in store for this spring and summer, right? I think we're going to go from using
It,
the heat to the air conditioning in a span of like 2 weeks, but we'll see. We'll see.
it gets pretty funky down here. I mean, it could be in the 70s or 80s, or maybe even hit 90, and we could get a late freeze. You just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. So Scott's got some cool X-Men stuff to show from his collection. Over the years, I think most folks who watch the channel know that Bill and I don't really have large X-Men collections. I have some. We had Kirk came on, I don't know, maybe a year ago, and he showed off a bunch of like really, really old ones. And I know Scott's got a whole bunch of stuff, older and newer. So he's picked out a selection of things to kind of show off today, and I'll let him take it from here. So let's see what you got, Scott.
All right, sir. Well, I go back a ways with X-Men, but it was kind of a tough one for me to kind of get going on. I think I picked up my first issue when I was about 9 or 10, and they were still in the reprints at that
Right.
point. And I don't know, it just didn't really connect with me at that point. Um, I tried them again about a year or two later, and it was during the um, when they had relaunched it. It was about a few issues into that, and it was okay, but it didn't really grab me. But a couple of years later, I tried it again during John Byrne's run, and I was hooked
That's
at
where it
that point.
happened. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
And I tell you, this is one of those series that, like, if you get into the X-Men late, like anytime in the last 20 plus years, good luck finding this stuff at decent prices. That's the problem. Like, all
yeah,
the X-Men comics are just ridiculously overpriced because that's kind of me. With you, X-Men comics didn't really click 100% with me back when I was a kid collecting in the
right. It took a
70s.
couple of tries for me
Yeah,
to
I bought
really
some here and there,
get it.
but I didn't buy a lot of them. And now that I'm more open to the X-Men stuff, it's like now that I'm going back to collect a lot of this stuff. I mean, the first like what 40, 50 issues are just ridiculously expensive, but even more so the second coming stuff from the late
Right.
70s into the early 80s. It's just, I mean, you,
Yeah, the
you can't get
relaunch.
anything. Yeah, it's a lot of money. So it's tough trying to collect at this point in time. I'm still doing it, but it's like they're few and far between. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, let's just start out. I my one of my first, maybe not the first one I ever read. I think, like I said, maybe one of those reprints from the mid '70s. But I actually read X-Men #1 in the Son of Origins collection. It was in that, and I actually did like this. A big part of that. This was when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were kind of just hitting on all cylinders,
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty cool at the time. Obviously, this is a reprint. This is one of
Yeah.
those facsimile reprints from recent
There's
years.
nothing wrong with those facsimiles, Scott.
Yeah, as far as early stuff, this is mostly all I've got. From the Lee Kirby era. There's one of #4 with Magneto and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which includes Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, their first appearances as villains. Although, oddly enough, on the cover, Wanda is in green.
Yeah. What's that all
Oh,
about?
you know,
Even Quicksilver's blue is a little different, right? He's like more
a little
like
bit, yeah. I think
yeah.
they hadn't quite worked things out yet. But it wasn't long before they would reform and they join the Avengers. Um, And of course, before the relaunch, we had Wolverine first appearance in Incredible Hulk. Again, another facsimile.
Yeah, I got that.
I did have this at one time. I had the original, both of these. I ended up having to sell them. I needed the money. I had to pay some medical bills.
Just bought mine.
You just,
I got one even one a couple
gotcha.
months ago. Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, before I really get going on the relaunch, I did have some from the original team. Like, here's one I got. I didn't pay a whole lot for these. I got them like in a box of junk I bought like at a garage sale. But that's number 40.
Yeah, Frankenstein.
Yeah, I mean, the original team, it's a little hit and miss as far as these issues go.
It's kind of goofy, right? I mean, a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, and I think after Kirby and then eventually Stan Lee, they both left the book and left it in other hands, and it seemed like it was kind of low priority for Marvel at the time. Like they just weren't putting their best and their brightest on it.
Yeah.
I think the book had potential, but like I said, the art's a little, it's not really my favorite.
Yeah, who was working on the art around that time?
Warner Roth was one of the guys that worked on it. I don't think I've seen his name pop up too many other places
Not at all
here. But his art was just kind of, I mean, I guess it was competent, but it wasn't really, I mean, after Kirby, it just wasn't really doing it for me. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, those are like my two earliest issues. This one, they did start to kind of experiment a little, put some of the young and up and coming talent on the book. Roy Thomas was writing it, and they had a few issues where Jim Steranko actually came in and did the artwork. And that's number 51. And then a few issues after that, we get Neal Adams.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and the first appearance of the Living Pharaoh.
We would see a lot going forward.
Really cool stuff. Yeah. So I think under this creative team, it was pretty cool. So I've got all of these, all the ones that Neal Adams worked on up till like the series got canceled. And the Sentinels.
Classic villains right there.
Absolutely. And here's Havoc's first appearance, number 58. Wow. Actually, it's Alex Summers appeared a few issues earlier, but this is his first one in the Havoc costume, where he's using his powers.
That's going for a good amount these days.
Yeah, I bought this a long time ago, probably in the late 80s, I would say. And it looks like a pretty nice book. It's got a little bit of chew along the spine. So I think I paid maybe like $4 or $5 for it back then.
Yeah, times that by a lot right now.
Yeah, I'm sure even with the chew, I'd pay several times that now.
Oh yeah.
When I met Neal Adams a few years ago, I got some Batman books signed. I got a couple other things signed. I did not bring these. I wish the Havoc one. That's one I wish he had. I had gotten from Marvel Books.
Because it's valuable as is, and with his signature on it, you just chalk that up quite a bit. So maybe when you're like 75 or so, you'd be like, I think I could part with this now and get a good chunk of change for it.
At some point, yeah. Well, my wife can't get rid of them soon enough. I can promise.
Same here.
It's number 59. Still the Sentinel storyline.
Here we go.
I love this one. Just Havoc. Cyclops just looks like he's just going wild here.
Yeah.
And he's been through some stuff. Number 60. And this is the debut of Sauron.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
So scientist that's a mutant, and he transforms into sort of a pterodactyl type creature. And there's the second one in that group. I still got the sticker on that one. Shame on me. I have to fix that. And then number 62, we got Kazar.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it's a good
And his
one.
buddy Zabu, the saber-toothed tiger. They did several stories in the Savage Land, and both in the original X-Men and then in the later team. Got this one. It's not in great shape, but with Magneto. I think you showed that on one of yours.
Yeah, I have that one. I have
I
a
just
lot.
I rewatched some of the ones you and Wild Bill did on. You did one of like your favorite X-Men covers. I mean, I think you had maybe a dozen between you.
Yeah, I'm looking at my list right now. So I've got issue 27. I've got 30 through 34. I have 63, and that's all I have sub 100. That's it.
You got more of the early issues than I do. I mean,
Yeah,
pre-50.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
They're hard to get, and well, they're not hard to find. They're just really pricey.
Yeah, it's like, you better be prepared to plunk down some money on these today.
Yeah. Do you know how
this one's a little beat up?
How many of the facsimiles they did? How many of the facsimiles did they do? Like of the early issues, was it just 1 and 2, or did they do like a handful of them?
There's others. Actually, I got one. I got a couple. I'll be showing you in a little bit.
Okay. I may want to go get those.
This one, number 64.
Oh, nice.
Okay. This one's the first appearance of Sunfire.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And he was, I don't know. Sometimes it was hard to tell he was a hero or a villain. When they relaunched with the new team, he was actually on the team. It was kind of an international team. They all came from like different countries, and he's from Japan.
Yep.
With fire powers, but yeah, I think he ended up fighting Iron Man and the
Iron Man.
Yep. And he
Yep.
didn't get along with anybody really.
He's one of those guys who he fought everybody, and then they eventually formed like a truce type of thing. That seems to always be his deal, right? So I guess you can call him an anti-hero, right?
Yeah, that's probably a good description.
Yeah.
Number 65. This is the last one Neal Adams did. And I actually I first got this one when I was a kid. I got it in a trade with a friend. But, as with pretty much all of my books from back then, I ended up selling them off when I was probably around 14, 15. So this was a rebuy. And then number 66, this was the final issue before going into reprints. The Hulk. And that is a Marie Severin cover.
Yep, it's a great cover. I mean, it's a good thing they chose her, right? Because she was doing all the Hulk stuff at the time anyway. So
yeah. Who better, right?
Yeah.
And so we had, like I said, we had the reprints for a while. I don't have any of the reprint issues currently. I don't know if I will. I'm not really seeking them out. They go for a lot more than I would expect them to, considering their reprints.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them, they rejig the cover art, right? So I guess that makes them kind of collectible.
Yeah, a lot of cool Gil Kane covers on those. Yeah. So Giant Size X-Men #1. That's where they relaunched, and with the new team, you have Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, and then that's Thunderbird.
Yep.
Was a Native American, and of course Cyclops from the old team, leading the team. So yeah, another facsimile. And I don't have the next few issues, but I do have them all collected in this trade. It's a Marvel Masterworks.
Yeah.
And this is a Barnes and Noble edition. There's several editions of these different Marvel Masterworks collections.
Yeah, Bill's got one of them too. I've seen that one before. Yeah.
Right. And then I do have the first regular issue with the new team, number 94.
Oh, nice. There you go. Yeah.
Count Nefaria. And by this point, like I said, Sunfire, he's not on the cover, but he was in the Giant Size X-Men #1. He bails here. He's not around too long.
In typical fashion. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was kind of a jerk. And 94, 95. And here we have the first death of an X-Men, and Thunderbird.
Yep. That's a good one.
He gets blown up. His personality though was very similar to Wolverine's. He's just this guy with an attitude and just seemed angry at everybody. And I don't know, maybe they just thought, well, we already got one guy like that, maybe we don't need two.
Yeah, the personalities were pretty similar.
Yeah,
cool character though. Today I totally see that they would include a character like him today, right? Because you got to have all the different races and everything included. So it totally makes sense. Back then it was kind of like, wow, they're going to go there. It's like, and they did.
Well, several years ago, several years later, I don't know, in the 90s, I guess, they in New Mutants, they introduced his brother, who had very similar powers and wore a similar costume. So he was remembered.
Yeah, and they included him in one of the was it a TV show? God, I'm trying to remember. One of the mutant TV shows they did recently. What was that called? He was in it. I can't even recall now. I know I watched it. I'm drawing a blank trying to think of what it was. I don't even.
It's hard to catch up with all that. To stay caught up with all that.
It was one of the X-Men offshoot.
Yeah,
there's so many movies, but they did a TV show, Young Mutants. Is that what it was called?
I thought it was a New Mutants. Yeah,
maybe it was called the New Mutants, right? It was a TV show. I think it only lasted one season, right? And he was one of the characters on that. I thought he was one of the best ones on the TV show, actually. So that seems like forever ago, but it was probably only a couple of years ago.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I've never actually seen it myself.
It was okay. It was pretty good. Yeah.
And then here we got 100. New team versus the old team, sorta. Actually, the old team, they're just turns out they're robots.
Yeah, of course,
including the Professor X. Well, and you see him standing, that's something's
going on right there. Yeah. Yep.
But, in this issue, this is sort of the part one of the origin of Phoenix. Jean Grey transforms to Phoenix.
Yep.
And this one, another facsimile. This one's going for big bucks. So I don't know if this is one I will ever actually own, unless I get lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Win the lottery or something. And here we got pretty much from here on, I've got a 100 plus issue run. I'm not going to show every one of them, obviously, but this is 102 with the new team's first encounter with the Juggernaut.
That's one of my favorites. That's a great battle issue between those two. I
love the Juggernaut. Yeah. And
Juggernaut still to this day remains one of my favorite villains.
Absolutely. He is one of the best. And that he was introduced during the time of the original team. And I think when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee were still in the book.
Yep.
And there he is with his partner, Black Tom Cassidy, who was, I think he was somehow related to Banshee.
I think
the Irish member of the group. I kind of like Banshee, but he didn't last a real long time.
No.
And then here's this is the one I was telling you about earlier that this was like the first one I had actually bought as a kid with the new team. I liked it all right, but for whatever reason, I just didn't really follow up and continue reading it, as adding it to my regular buy list.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool issue. It's got, oh yeah, absolutely. And I've really come to appreciate this period more. But when it really started clicking for me with the Byrne issues, number 105, Firelord versus Phoenix.
They were pushing Firelord everywhere, man. Holy cow!
They really were.
He's showing up all over the place.
And then this one's just kind of a one-off issue, what they call an inventory story. So it's just got, you know, they kind of when they're like running late on deadlines, what they'll do, they'll write a bunch of stories and they'll just kind of save them. And that's what this is. They did a couple of issues like that. So, but you know, it kind of doesn't really fit in with the continuity so well. You know, it's like
Headline doom, they call it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't think even Dave Cockrum did the art on this one, on the, at least not on the interior. I think that is his cover. But and then this is Dave Cockrum's last issue with the book. And they meet the Star Jammers. This is their first encounter with the Star Jammers.
Cool.
And that's the first of a two-parter. The second part, 108, that happens to be John Byrne's first issue. John Byrne and Terry Austin, I got to give credit where credit is due. Terry Austin did an awesome job on the inking. And this was kind of the dream team. Chris Claremont writing it, John Byrne, and Terry Austin doing the art shorts. And to me, this was kind of the golden age of X-Men. I think I got a couple more. Yeah. 109.
There you go.
That is the Guardian.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he was called. He had several names. He was Weapon X. He was the Vindicator. He was the Guardian. I think at this point he's maybe the Vindicator. But you know, he worked for the Canadian government. You know, they had their own team of superheroes they were developing. More on that later.
Yep.
But he was the leader of that team, and actually he's going to get to bring Wolverine back to Canada. Basically, Wolverine was Canadian, and he was working for the Canadian government himself when when the X-Men recruited him.
Yep.
And he's coming out here to say, we're bringing you back.
Ties going all the way back to that first Hulk appearance, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a classic cover right there. It's one of my favorites from the book.
Absolutely. This one's another, what they call inventory story with the Warhawk. And I think Warhawk also was a villain that took on Iron Fist, and maybe Iron Fist and Power Man. And he's got the X-Men's Danger Room. He kind of rigged it to turn on them. And that's a Cockrum Terry Austin cover. And then we got 111 here. Need a new bag on this one. But this is the first of a multi-parter where it brings back Magneto.
Yeah, there we go.
And you've got the classic team of Byrne and Austin on the interior art, but that cover is George Perez.
Looks like it.
One of the few times he actually worked on the X-Men. He didn't work on them a whole lot, but he would have been welcome on the title. I mean, who wouldn't want George Perez on there, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the climax of their encounter with Magneto, number 113. And basically after this issue, they're sort of left for dead. The Jean and the Beast, they assume that the X-Men were killed in this battle, as we see here. There's Professor X. This was actually the first one I bought on the spinner rack when I was a kid, with John Byrne, and from here on I just bought it all the time. This is the one that really took for me.
So that's when Beast comes back from the Avengers, right? Because he spent those couple of years with the Avengers, right? Yeah.
Exactly. I think he was just maybe I think he just came back because he heard, you know, that the X-Men were killed. So he thought, well, time to go visit. I mean, X-Men are family to him, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But what really happened to them, they ended up in the Savage Land once again.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's Sauron again. Yeah.
Kazar didn't make the cover on this one, but Sauron did. And that is just an awesome cover. I love that cover.
It is.
And that's the conclusion to the Savage Land saga. And there he is. There's Kazar.
Oh, cool.
Fighting the sun god. And just a few more here. Number 117. This one is kind of a flashback issue, kind of early days of Professor X. And you know it goes back a ways because he's still able to walk. He's not in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he takes on this this other mutant who in Egypt, who is he has similar powers to Xavier's. So they're kind of having this mental war. Yeah. And we also see a young Storm in this issue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty cool issue, pretty good one-off. And then you knew he had to come back eventually. Sunfire.
Can't get rid of him.
Yeah. So this is post Savage Land. They make their way to Japan and they encounter Sunfire and they fight the Mandroids. This is that hand there that's firing a beam at Sunfire. That's a Mandroid.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they had appeared previously fighting the Avengers. And I'll just do a few more here. Number 119, Moses Magnum. That's who they're fighting here.
Sunfire again.
Yes, and so yeah, with Sunfire's help this time. Although he's not looking too good down here.
No.
And this is where X-Men's really starting to become. I mean, it's just really starting to catch on, become like a big title. They won an Eagle Award here. They're very proud of that.
Yeah, this was, I think, Marvel's best-selling title right around this time.
It was up there for sure. I mean, it was up there with Spider-Man. And in the early days, I mean, X-Men couldn't get arrested. They just, I mean, I think it may have come on fairly strong early on, but it just seemed to kind of fizzle fairly quickly.
Yeah, when you really think about it too, it's like X-Men, you know, when they first launched them, they were pretty much teenage characters. So at this point, they're a little bit older. But when you really think about it, what was selling popularly at Marvel at the time? X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, and Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, right? So all these like younger characters that I think people were relating to a little bit more. I don't know if that had anything to do with the times because it was late 70s, right? I don't know, but kind of weird how those were doing so much better than, you know, Avengers are doing pretty well at the time, but like Thor and Fantastic Four, I think we're starting to wane a little bit based on what we saw earlier in the decade. But they were also, Marvel was heavily trying to introduce all these new series and characters around this time.
Right.
None of them were sticking, unfortunately. Nova and all the Kirby stuff that was popping out, right? Nothing really kind of took, but the
Ms. Marvel, Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
Iron Fist.
She-Hulk, all this stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you're right. None of that stuff. I mean, a lot of them are kind of fondly remembered now, but
right. But at the
time they just weren't really selling. The Champions, there's another one.
The Champions, Omega the Unknown.
Had a couple of X-Men in it.
Yeah.
Back number 120, and remember we talked about the Vindicator, the Canadian guy. Well, he comes back with reinforcements this time. This is the first appearance of Alpha Flight.
There we go. Yep.
Canadian superheroes. And
Alpha Flight picked up steam. Alpha Flight took off for a while there.
It did. for a little bit. I got that first issue. I did collect it while John Byrne was on the title. I kind of dropped it after that. And here they are making the cover. Great battle scene. It's worth noting, I had Dave Cockrum had left the book, stopped doing the interiors, but he kept doing a lot of the covers. And along with and Terry Austin, who was doing the interior inks, was also doing the inks on the covers as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's a great issue. So I could probably stop it there for now, but that is just such a great run of X-Men. I guess I was I've been collecting comics for a few years. I was about around 12, 13 when these came out, and I was just loving it. It was quickly becoming one of my favorite titles. And a couple of years later, though, about 1980, I decided I'm probably getting too old for this. I need to stop collecting comics. I was getting more interested in music at that time. Girls were definitely a more stronger interest for me, and it was like, well, if I ever want to get a girlfriend, I probably need to put the comics aside for a while, and I did.
There you go. But then, like all of us,
so unfortunately, I missed a lot of those great X-Men.
Yeah, for sure. It's always nice to go back to stuff, right? I mean, I think that's what most of us comic collectors have experienced throughout our lives, right? It's like you stop, you start, you stop, you start, and here we are approaching 60, and we started again, and the curse is real.
Well, I came back about 8 years later, and I really never completely went away since then. I mean, I've had periods where I bought more, where I bought less, but I haven't really stopped completely since then.
I took all the 80s off pretty much, other than like maybe 81 or so, and I didn't come back till the late 90s. And then I came back for a couple of years, then went away for a couple of years, and I've now been back probably a decade at least. So, whatever.
Right. I really started hitting the back issues pretty heavily in the early 2000s,
Yeah, well, for me, it's always been back issues. I really never bought a lot of new stuff. So, for sure. Well, that's a nice haul you got there, Scott.
I thought, right. What's that?
I said it's a good run of X-Men there.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I got more, but we only got so much time, and we can do another one later if you want.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thanks for watching, everybody. This episode of X-Men. Thanks to Scott. Scott's going to come back. He's going to show off some stuff that he picked up real recently, because you know how we all love to do the new hauls here on the channel, and you guys love to watch them. So you've seen some of mine of late. You saw some of Bill's. Well, now next episode, tune in for some of Scott's. So till then, please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Scott, Barry, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, Comic Book Geezers. We'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.